Hey friends, welcome back and Happy New Year. 2023 is here and it is Lisa and Layne with Seed Talk. Hi Layne.
Happy New Year, everybody.
So Layne and I today have a great little talk with you. Tell us what we're going to talk about today, Layne.
So today we're going to be talking about the Pantone Color of the Year and a flower that we think matches this color pretty well. And it's a special flower. It's Lisa's favorite zinnia.
Yes.
So we'll find out about why.
Yes. So we're going to get started here, but remember friends, we appreciate it so much when you drop in here, and to subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends helps us so much. And the podcast is brought to you by thegardenersworkshop.com.
I want to thank everyone who's taken time to submit episode requests to us. And I just want you to know that we have those requests. We're trying to get them worked into the schedule. And in case anyone doesn't know, there are a few different ways you can contact us to put in a request for an episode. There is a form linked in the show notes where you can suggest a topic. You can also leave a comment on YouTube with a suggested topic, or you could email info@thegardenersworkshop.com and just say Seed Talk topic request or message for Layne or something, and that will get passed along to me. So thank you so much to everyone who has suggested episodes. So let's get started with today's.
Yes. How exciting. The Pantone Color of the Year.
Yes. All right. And if you're watching over on YouTube, I have a slide up with some of the past Pantone colors of the year. And I just wanted to start by describing what this is. So since the year 2000, the Pantone Color Institute has been selecting a color of the year, and they do a ton of research and analysis and forecasting to try and predict the color trends of the upcoming year. And they eventually settle on a color, the color of the year, that they think represents what is going on in the world, what represents this moment in our culture. And the Pantone Color of the Year has become a global phenomenon. The color announcements are very highly anticipated, and the color that's chosen goes on to influence all sorts of industries, from fashion to interior design, even the color palettes for weddings and the flowers at those weddings. So before we talk about the 2023 color of the year, I'm curious, Lisa, do you pay much attention to the Pantone colors of the year? And did they ever impact what you were growing as a flower farmer or what your florist customers were requesting from you?
Sure, that's a great question, Layne. So, my primary customer, commercial customer, were florists, and our target market was really focusing on selling them flowers that they could use every day of their business life, not events, even though they did use some of our flowers for events. So we weren't that focused on it. However, when I would hear whatever the Pantone announcement was, I would be very generous with my suggestions to my floral customers to say, oh, look, 2021 is this beautiful color of yellow. Did you know that the Pro Cut Lemon Sunflower is that exact color? So that's a great color for them to know that they can get from us. We had other colors too, but just kind of to be more informative, I guess, of what that color is. But it did not drive our business. And that may have been very different if we had focused primarily on event people, doing weddings and those types of things. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. I think it's just kind of interesting to hear the reasonings behind why they thought this was the color of the year. And sometimes it encourages you to think outside the box a little or consider a color that you might not have considered before. And if you are watching on YouTube, it's not a mistake. There actually were two colors for 2021. So strange times.
Noticing that.
Yes, there were actually two colors, a yellow and a gray, to represent the dual nature of what was going on in the world. The gray represents strength and resilience, and the yellow represents optimism and hope. Okay, so now let's move on to the 2023 color of the year, and that is called Viva Magenta. And I'm going to read some quotes that the Pantone Color Institute put out about what this color is and why they picked it. So they said that Viva Magenta is a shade rooted in nature, descending from the red family and expressive of a new signal of strength. It is a pulsating color whose exuberance promotes a joyous and optimistic celebration. And the reason they chose this color, they said that they observed a heightened appreciation and awareness of nature represented by countless lifestyle trends. We're incorporating more living things into our homes, such as plants, florals, living walls, and restorative outdoor spaces. We're finding newfound enjoyment in travel, sports, and outdoor recreation after pausing these activities during the pandemic.
Wow.
So, yeah, kind
And
of interesting to hear.
it is kind of interesting. And I think I'll keep my eyes peeled now. I mean,
Yes.
I never even thought about the Pantone color being
Yeah.
beyond flowers. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? Because that's my area. I never thought about interior design and all of those types of things. And oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's interesting. And sometimes the trends can take a little while to pick
mhm,
up. Like you might notice some of it this year, but it might even be in the year after that. It's kind of
right.
interesting, but I do always like to hear why they chose that color. All right, so now we're going to move on to a flower that immediately when the color of the year was announced in December, Lisa immediately texted and said, "This is the flower. This is a flower that matches this color." So that flower is going to be Zinnia Uproar Rose. And
Yes.
like I mentioned before, this is Lisa's favorite zinnia. So before we find out why this is her favorite, let's just describe it a little bit. So in terms of head size, so Oklahoma zinnias have smaller heads. They might be 1.5 inches wide, whereas Benary's giant zinnias could be 6 inches across. Where does Uproar Rose fit on that spectrum of head size?
Uproar Rose is just usually about a smidgen smaller than Benary's Giants, if not the very same size. I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, there is an image that Suzanne and I took several years ago. It was the first cut of an Uproar Rose bed, and they were almost as big as my face. I mean, we have
Oh,
pictures
wow.
of the bloom right in front of my face, and they're fully petaled, just like Benary's Giants. But what is different about Uproar is the color. There is no Benary's Giant that falls into this color. And there's never been a more obvious moment to see that than when you're got a bed of mixed Benary's Giants growing, and right next to it is a bed of Uproar Rose. And there's just none of the colors are even close to it at all.
They're not close to Viva Magenta.
No, there is I mean, and I can even see it in the images that you are displaying. If you're on YouTube, you've got to look at the pictures. There is just a glow about them that is so very, very different than any of the colors. And I'm sure that there are people that could tell you exactly why that is. But it's a very unique and it's totally beautiful with orange, my other favorite color.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And
Yeah.
how about height wise? How is the plant height wise in comparison to other zinnias? Is it about the
Sure.
same or is it shorter?
It's a little more uniform. So I mean, it definitely goes 36 inches, but Benary's Giants can definitely go beyond that, especially in their regrowth. And I just don't find that with Uproar Rose. Uproar is a recent introduction, meaning in the last 10 years. That's why the seed literally cost, I haven't done the math lately, but it costs like 10 times more than Benary's Giants do. And it's because it's just been recently hybridized. There's people that are doing the breeding programs have to be paid for their years and years and years of work. And that's why when new seeds come out, they cost so much, so that those people will, get paid for their work and go on to make more other new seeds, right? So, but Uproar Rose, even being a very costly seed, we still grew 100-foot beds of it. It was that amazingly beautiful.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, what percentage of zinnias at any given time do you allocate to Uproar Rose? What percentage of your zinnias that you're growing are Uproar Rose zinnias versus any other type?
Sure. So we grow Benary's Giants by solid color, typically, when we were commercially growing. And so we would have, when we were in high production, we would have 120-foot beds of each color. And Uproar Rose would be the same. As we backed off of high production and we were more producing just for our members only market and subscriptions, we would have like a 30-foot, our beds were a little bit smaller and we would have 3 colors in a bed, grown segmented, but 3 colors in a bed. And one of those colors would have been Uproar. So it was the equivalent of the colors in the Benaries mixes that we grew.
All right. And can you talk about how productive this plant is?
Goodness.
And also, could you maybe talk about following this plant through its entire life cycle? So you put a plant in at a certain time. How long is that producing for you?
Sure. So Uproar is incredibly, as I mentioned earlier, its height seems to be more uniform and its production does well. I mean, you get so many uniform branching stems that are just as significant if you make the first cut deep, so that you get strong branching stems. I mean, it will keep on producing just like all the other Benaries giants do. But what takes them out usually, just like all the other zinnias, is if it's a year where you're really fighting mildew. I have found that Uproar is one of the last zinnias to actually fall victim to the mildew. I mean, all zinnias are susceptible to mildew. In our experience, they all ultimately get it. It's like they all always have just a little bit of it, but we do our best to make it healthy enough in the beds so that they really resist it. But Uproar Rose, I mean, we'll cut them till the end of the season, but we always plant at least 2 successions, at least.
Yes. And I did actually look up the cost comparison because, like Lisa mentioned, this is a hybrid seed, so it's very expensive. It's expensive for us to buy. So compared to Benaries giants, which are open pollinated, Uproar Rose seed costs us roughly 5 times more to purchase than Benaries giants. Yeah. So whether you're purchasing from us or someone else, you're probably going to notice that it's a little more costly or 5 times more costly per seed, or you'll notice that the seed packs have a lot fewer seeds in them for the same price as others. But that's because that really is the cost for us as well.
And I find because of that, and they're fairly recently hybridized, we always have great germination usually. You have strong germination. And again, they just grow very uniform plants. There's just a lot of great features and characteristics of the plant. And we just find it's worth it because it's just a color that you can't get anywhere else.
It is worth it.
And I want to say the person that reminded me that magenta was the color of the year, or actually I had already heard the announcement, but my good friend Janice Harris of Harris Flower Farm in Canada posted about it on social media. And she said, I think Uproar Rose is exactly that color. And I totally agreed with her. And so, yeah, Uproar Rose will be a hot flower. And, it really helps some flowers get the fame they never actually achieved before when something like this happens, because I think people will find that Uproar has an amazing habit. It's very uniform. It's a gorgeous flower. It's a killer color. And it'll get the fame that it was once due. And it's all just because Pantone picked it this year. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah. It just puts a spotlight on it.
Yes.
So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and make sure to subscribe. If you're listening in a podcast app, we always appreciate a review or a rating. And on YouTube, we love when you like and comment.
Yes. And friends, 2023 is going to be an exciting year. So we're just really happy to have you guys drop in and take a listen.
Yes. And happy 2023 to everyone. Happy New Year.
Yes. Happy New Year. Till we meet again, friends. Ciao.
Bye.